Hello everyone, welcome to the NFL Week 8 edition of the Player Prop Countdown, where I give you my top 10 favorite player props for this week's NFL action. If you want to check out my best side or total bet for every game this week, then check out the Road to 272 Bets Week 8 edition that was released Tuesday morning. We're just talking player props here. I got 10 player props that I like. And as always, I'm going to rank them starting from 10 all the way down to my number one player prop. I've been wishing to not go 5-5. I'd gone 5-5 basically every single week this season. And as I said that last week, of course, the finger on the monkey paw curled, and then I went 4-6. So you know what? I think I'd rather go just 5-5 again than 4-6. So 4-6 last week, minus 2.58 units. Which brings my season-to-date record for player props to 34 wins, 35 losses, 1 push for plus 0.49 units. So we are still profitable for the moment in time. We're still profitable both with the Road to 272 and the Player Prop Countdown, despite having a losing week in both last week. So let's see if we can get our momentum back here in week 8. 16 games, no bye weeks this week, so I had a lot of games to choose from. No repeat games, I believe. I think all 10 player props are in different games. Of course, that leaves 6 games that I don't have a player prop for. And I'll let you know, because if you're watching this on YouTube, which if you're not, go ahead and subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast channel on YouTube and like this video and leave a comment with your best player prop for today. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you can tell that I'm up looking past the camera. I'm recording this Wednesday night. There's one NHL game tonight. I gave it out on Twitter as well. I wrote about it on Sports Illustrated. It was a bet I absolutely loved. It was Washington Capitals at home to the Flyers. They got out to a 4-0 lead, chalked it up. Great win, easy pick, went exactly how I expected it to. Now it's 4-3 with 3.5 minutes left here. So you may see absolute heartbreak right in front of your eyes here, because we don't take any breaks for the Player Prop Countdown, or at least I try not to. I try to do it all in one shot. I'm up late enough doing Road to 272 on Monday night. I try to make these podcasts a little less painful for myself. So let's get into it. As I said, we always start from my 10th favorite down to my number 1 favorite. So number 10 player prop for NFL Week 8 is a guy who I think I've bet on against actually a couple times this season. Gonna bet on him this week. And you'll notice a lot of the player props do kind of line up with things that I've talked about in my Road to 272 bets, because if I think things are going to happen, which is going to lead to a team covering the spread, then I'm probably going to bet a player prop that coincides with that. And that is the case in this game. It is Aaron Rodgers over 232.5 pass yards for the Jets against the New England Patriots. It's a big reason why I'm also betting against the Patriots. I'm betting on the Jets to cover the touchdown spread as the Flyers almost score a goal, 2.5 minutes left. Patriots secondary absolutely stinks. They can actually stop the run. Lately, they haven't been great at stopping the run, but at least early in the year, they were good at stopping the run. Hasn't been the case of late, but all season, they haven't been good in stopping the pass. 25th in opponent yards per pass attempt. They also give up 223.4 passing yards per game. And the Capitol just scored on an empty net with 2 minutes left. So that should seal that, thank God. Although if you're watching this, you're probably hoping to witness some heartbreak. Rodgers throws the ball a ton. At least 30 passing attempts every week since week 1. And even in their week 3 blowout against the Patriots, he still threw the ball 35 times for 281 yards. So I'm not concerned about him not throwing the ball, because that is something you got to think about when you go over pass yards on any player. Is that if that team gets out to a big lead, they stop throwing the football. Not necessarily the case with Rodgers. He's going to throw the ball all game regardless. And like I said, he did throw for 281 yards the last time he faced this Patriots defense. And now he has had a full week with Javonte Adams. Last week, obviously, they got Javonte Adams on Tuesday. He played on Sunday, but that's not a lot of time to really get used to the Jet system and kind of get used to playing with Aaron Rodgers again. Now he has a full week of practice under his belt. I expect Davante Adams to have a big game and help Rodgers get over his pass yards total of 232.5. Number 9 player prop for this week. I'm going to go back to Saquan Barkley. He's a guy I've bet on a couple times already this season, and I still don't think the market correctly is setting his rushing yards total. It is at 74.5 this week at minus 114. I will take the over on that. And once again, this lines up with what I talked about in Road to 272. What I expect in this game is for the Philadelphia Eagles to be able to run the ball successfully against a Bengals defense that has struggled to stop the run all season. 30th in opponent rush EPA, dead last in the NFL in opponent rush success rate. Barkley is having an unbelievable season. He's averaging 6.1 yards per carry, 109.7 yards per game. So over about 35 more yards per game he's averaging than his set total for this game. And he gets to go against a poor run defense. Everything is adding up for Barkley. And the Eagles have shown, they showed last week, that if running the ball is working, they're just going to keep running the ball. There is no concern that the Eagles are going to come out, run the ball successfully, and then just decide to throw the ball 30 times in a row. They will run the ball again and again and again. Now, if it is a blowout, Barkley will sit, but I don't imagine this is going to be a blowout against the Bengals. The Bengals offense will be able to keep pace at least a little bit. So Saquon Barkley against the Bengals over 74.5 rush yards at -114. Number 8 player prop of the week, I'm going with an Atlanta Falcon here. I'm going to go Drake London over 5.5 receptions. A little juicy on this one, -137, but I like this bet regardless. I mean, if you want to do an alternate line, if you want to take over 6.5, you can get that at plus money, but I'm just going to go over 5.5 at -137. First of all, he has hit at least 6 receptions in every game since week 1. Week 1, I think he only had 4 or 5, but so week 2 until all the way up till last week, he hit at least 6 receptions in every single game. As I shut off the NHL game, the Capitals scored 2 empty netters. Thank God that came through. Got a little sweaty there. But yeah, so 6 receptions now in 6 straight games. He is actually tied for the 3rd most targets in the NFL this season with 62. So Kirk Cousins is throwing him the ball a ton. And then obviously he had a great performance. His best performance of the season was against this Bucs secondary back in week 5 was that? 12 receptions on 13 targets against the Bucs in their first game. So I'm going to bet on Drake London yet again. I will take him over 5.5 receptions at -137. This one's a fun one. My number 7 player prop is a fun one. It is, it's my number 7 ranked player prop for a reason. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be Jamus Winston. I'm officially now all in on the Browns now that Deshaun Watson is no longer the starting quarterback. And I wasn't sure when I recorded Monday night for Road to 272 if it's going to be Jamus Winston or Dorian Thompson-Robinson. If you listen to that first thing Tuesday morning, you got a really good line on the Browns because I bet the Monday night at plus 11.5. It's down now to plus 8.5. We got 3 points of CLV, including crossing the key number of 10 with the Browns in that game. So I love that I have that bet in my pocket. I'm going to add to it by taking Winston to go over 225.5 pass yards. This, to be fair, this is not necessarily a bet on Winston. More so, this is a bet on the Baltimore Ravens, who I've talked about it at length. Their secondary stinks, and it's going to cost them at some point this season. They're allowing the most passing yards per game in the NFL, 287.1 passing yards per game. But that's not only because their secondary is bad. It's also because, and this is actually what led to Baker Mayfield throwing for like 400 yards the other night, is that their offense is so good and their team is so good as a whole that they are usually playing with a lead, which means the team they're playing against then has to throw the ball to try to catch up. So it is the perfect recipe if you want to take the over passing yards for a quarterback. The Ravens are the perfect opponent for that because, number one, their secondary is bad, bottom 5 secondary in the NFL. Once again, most passing yards per game, 28th in opponent dropback EPA, 25th in opponent dropback success rate. And on top of that, the quarterback playing against them is probably going to have to try to come from behind late. That leads to garbage time yards. That leads to the Ravens playing even softer coverage than they normally do. A lot of late fourth quarter yards, and the quarterbacks more often than not have gone over their numbers. So I will do that once again with Jamus Winston because it is a low total of 225.5 against one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. Now, my main concern is I don't know who Jamus Winston is going to throw to. I guess Jerry Jeudy a lot. So there you go. He's got to be better than Deshaun Watson. He's got to be. Number 6 player prop of the week. I'm going with my long shot touchdown bet, which has saved me a few times this season and a reason why I'm sitting at a profit despite having a below 500 record. Last week, it was Demario Douglas, did not hit for us there. I think he got hurt against the Jaguars, or they just didn't throw him the ball, only 2 receptions. This week, I'm going to go with the Raiders tight end against the Chiefs, Brock Bowers, plus 255. I bet it at Caesars Sportsbook. And I say this every week, when you bet anytime touchdown scores, more so, you should do this with all your bets, is to have as many accounts at as many different sportsbooks as possible. But especially with touchdowns, you need to shop around, because, I mean, I'll even bring this bet up, for example. The difference in odds between different sportsbooks for anytime touchdown bets is unbelievable. And I've actually noticed DraftKings, who's now advertising themselves as the place to bet touchdowns, have generally the worst touchdown odds. Perfect. Yeah, this is Brock Bowers at DraftKings plus 195 to score a touchdown. At Caesars, he's plus 255. That's a significant difference. Bet 365, he's plus 240. FanDuel generally has really good touchdown odds. BetStamp does not have FanDuel listed, so they might not have touchdown odds up for that game yet. No, they don't. So FanDuel does not have touchdown odds for that game yet. Once they do, it's still going to be better than DraftKings. Do not bet your touchdowns at DraftKings. It is rarely the best price you will find. With that being said, the Chiefs have struggled against defending tight ends. We all know this now. If you're a fantasy football player, you will see that the Chiefs give up the most fantasy points to opposing tight ends of all 32 teams in the NFL. I could list off all the names. As Isaiah Likely week 1, George Kittle last week, despite not scoring, had a great game against the Chiefs. So Brock Bowers should be set up for a big game. And also Brock Bowers tied for 6th in the NFL in targets. He has 60 targets this season. He has seen double-digit targets and 8+ receptions in 3 straight games. So the throws are going to be there. The receptions are going to be there. The only question is whether or not one of those receptions will be in the end zone. For a guy who's seeing double-digit targets to get 2.5 to 1 to score a touchdown, and as we always talk about when we're talking player props, game script is going to play a big role in it. Ideally for, overs on rushing yards, you want a team that's going to be winning. Over on passing yards, you generally want a team that's going to be losing. And this is a passing prop. Negative game script. Chiefs are 10-point favorites, will likely be ahead. Raiders likely having to throw the ball in the second half should open things up and give them more opportunities to find the end zone as well. So Brock Bowers to score a touchdown at any time, plus 255. I just mentioned it. Rushing yards over for a team that's going to be likely winning and have the lead. And that is what I'm doing with this player. It is Javonte Williams of the Denver Broncos. This is my number 5 player prop of the week. Javonte Williams of the Denver Broncos over 62.5 rush yards at minus 115. Likely going to run more because they're likely going to blow out the Panthers. The Panthers have now announced that they are starting Bryce Young at quarterback. Oh boy. Listen, Bryce Young got benched for a reason. Every single quarterback metric you want to look at, he was by far the worst quarterback in the NFL. And now he has to take on the best defense in the NFL. The Broncos are going to blow out the Panthers. That will likely lead to Javonte Williams running the ball a ton. He ran the ball a ton last week against the Saints when they blew them out. He has played 63% of snaps or more in 3 straight games. And the Panthers are 29th in opponent rush EPA, 29th in opponent rush success rate, and they are allowing the most rushing yards per game, giving up 162.1. No-brainer of a bet for me here. Number 5, player prop of the week, Javonte Williams over 62.5 rush yards. Number 4 player prop of the week, it is the Cardinals against the Dolphins, and I'm going to go under on Kyler Murray's passing yards total of 208.5. You might be surprised to actually find out because Kyler Murray has overall had a pretty solid season, but he's a lot more of his success has come running with the football because he's only actually averaging 190.1 passing yards per game. That is 18 yards lower than his set total for this game. And the Miami Dolphins are allowing the fewest passing yards per game, giving up just 154.5 passing yards per contest. As I talked about in the road to 272, the Dolphins defense has been an underrated defense this season. They have been a top 10, top 8 unit, specifically their secondary. I think they can slow Kyler Murray down. This passing yards total is significantly above his season average. And I don't necessarily see him just throwing for a ton of yards in this game either. So I'll go Kyler Murray under 208.5 pass yards. That is my number 4 ranked player prop for week 8. My number 3 ranked player prop, probably not going to come as a surprise to anyone based on how I talked about this game for the road to 272. Oh, by the way, I forgot to show off my sweater. We're going Halloween sweaters this week. That's the theme. I got some spooky kitty cats there with some cool hats. I got some lightning in the background. It's a pretty spooky sweater. Shout out TJ Maxx. If you want to see the sweater, go subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Jordan Love. We're talking Packers. We're talking Jaguars. Jordan Love over 255.5 pass yards is my number 3 ranked player prop of the week. Sorry, just taking a quick sip of decaf coffee. Jaguars. I mean, I feel like I've talked about this every single week. Jaguars dead last in opponent dropback EPA, 26th in opponent dropback success rate, 30th in opponent yards per pass attempt. I've been betting quarterbacks to go over their pass yards against the Jaguars a number of weeks this season. I did it last week with Drake May, and it hit pretty comfortably. I will do it again with Jordan Love, who, by the way, is leading the NFL in pass yards per game, averaging 270.2 pass yards per game. So Jordan Love to go over 255.5 pass yards. Just got to hit your season average. He hits his season average against the Jaguars. This bet hits by 15 yards. My number 2 player prop of the week. This is a Thursday night one. I'd like to put in a Thursday night football prop as a little treat for the people who listen and watch on Thursday. I'm going to go the Rams running back, Kiron Williams, under 73.5 rush yards at minus 113. The Vikings lead the NFL. They're first in opponent rush EPA, second in opponent rush success rate, 5th in opponent yards per carry. One of the truly best, arguably might be the best run defense in the entire NFL. Kiron Williams has had the benefit of facing some of the worst rush defenses so far to start the season, to be honest. If you look at the games, the teams that Kiron Williams has got to face, last week, the Raiders, one of the worst rush defenses. Packers, who have been a little bit hot and cold. Packers are weird because they rank high in opponent rush EPA, but low in opponent rush success rate. So, and that was his best game. So, I mean, good on him there. But then the Bears, that's their weakness, is the run defense. The 49ers have struggled stopping the run. The Cardinals have struggled stopping the run. The Lions have struggled stopping the run. So, Kiron Williams and the Rams have yet to face an elite run defense, and now they have to face the best run defense. So 73.5 is a huge rushing total, I think, going up against the Vikings defense, who, let me actually see if I can find out how many yards per game the Vikings have allowed this season. That's yards per rush attempt. They're 4th, giving up 4.0. I want to go total rushing yards per game. They're only giving up, I guess, 80 rushing yards per game, but that's for the whole team. That is the second fewest rush yards per game, though, in the NFL. So I think it's a pretty tall order for Kiron Williams to do that, especially game script. If we're talking game script, I do think the Vikings win this game. If they have the lead, that will mean the Rams will have to look to the pass instead in the second half, and we'll have to abandon the run game at some point. And with Cooper Kupp back in the lineup for the Rams, that may increase their pass rate compared to recent weeks. So my number 2 player prop for Week 8, Kiron Williams, under 73.5 rush yards. My favorite player prop for this week is a quarterback prop. It's an under completions prop. It is Anthony Richardson under, that's way too much text for my screen. Anthony Richardson under 16.5 completions, if I can fix my graphic here. Under 16.5 completions at minus 133. Now, Ian, you're probably saying, Ian, minus 133 is not fun, and I agree. I mean, you can do an alt number if you want to get plus money. You're also thinking 16.5 completions. You only have to get 17 for this bet to lose. Anthony Richardson has only had more than 10 completions once this season. And in that game, he had 17. Let me bring up Anthony Richardson's numbers. I don't think people realize how bad Anthony Richardson has been this season, because he's winning games and he does some electric plays, which, I mean, the amount of names I could list off that are highlight players who, if all you do is watch Red Zone, then there are players that you generally are going to think are better than they are because they have like 1 to 2 highlights each game, and those are some of the only plays you see. But then if you either watch the whole game or if you even just look at the box score afterwards, you'll see they're not good. Justin Fields, Not this year, but Justin Fields with the Bears was a classic example. Everyone thought Justin Fields was great because he'd show up twice on red zone doing a 20-yard run and a 20-yard pass, but you actually watched the game and he was missing players all over the field. He was fumbling. He was terrible. Anthony Richardson is that guy. He's a red zone player. Red zone the channel, not red zone the actual red zone. Because you turn on red zone, you see him run someone over, you see him complete a 60-yard bomb. You're not seeing the fact that in his 5 games this season, he has completions of 10. I'll leave out the Steelers game because he got hurt and left. But so the 4 games that he played from start to finish, he had 10 completions, 17 completions, and 9 completions. Not good. So 16.5 is actually a high completion total for him. He has a completion rate of 48.5% this season. He's completing fewer than half his passes. He's only had more than 10 completions once. He's only gone over this number once. And as a little cherry on top, the team is playing the Houston Texans, have the lowest opponent completion percentage this season. Teams are only completing 56.34% against them, and they've played some very good quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson might complete 3 passes this weekend. I love this bet. Listen, it's minus 133. Can I ladder an under on Anthony Richardson's completions? I don't think he reaches double digits. So because of that, my favorite player prop for week 8 action is for Anthony Richardson to go under 16.5 completions. All right, we're going to talk DFS, which I found out this is the year I've played DFS more than any other year. I'm not good at it, but I will continue to give out my lineups. And my lineups are basically just based off my player props anyways for the most part. All right, here is my DraftKings lineup for this week. Jordan Love is my quarterback, obviously, for him to go over his passing yards total being my number 3 favorite bet of the week. I'm obviously going to take Jordan Love, and he's, relatively cheap option. You actually see this. And I mean, I'm not, making, I just accidentally deleted him off my lineup. I'm not making this up about how bad the Jaguars secondary are. They are 32nd in terms of opponent quarterback fantasy points per game. So quarterbacks are destroying them, and I'm kind of staying with the same theme. The Panthers give up the most fantasy points to running backs, and I will take Javonte Williams because Javonte Williams was one of my player props for the top 10. For my second running back, so far I got Jordan Love, Javonte Williams, obvious. My second running back here, I'm going Bucky Irving against the Atlanta Falcons. He is questionable. I got to maybe switch that out. What's his non-participant in Wednesday's practice? If he doesn't play, I'm just going to put in Rashid White. Why did that not sound right? I'm going to put in the Buccaneers' other running back because this is just very cheap options at running backs, which you need to put in some cheap players. And what we know is the Buccaneers are going to run the ball a ton. They have to. They don't really have any other option. Their other option is Cade Otton, who's also my tight end in this lineup. With no Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans, it's going to limit the Buccaneers' offense. And the Falcons, to be honest, have not done a great job of stopping the run this season. So the Buccaneers running backs are going to get a ton of work. If Bucky Irving's out, Rashad White. I think I said Rashid White earlier. Rashad White, the other running back, is going to get 1 million carries. So I'll just toss him in there if Bucky Irving's out. Kind of similar, thinking with Juwan Jennings of the 49ers as my first receiver. No Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel questionable. Juwan Jennings is obviously going to get a ton of work. He's also questionable. Also didn't practice Wednesday, so I might have to swap Juwan Jennings out. If I do, I'll just put in another 49ers running back. We're staying with the same theme here. Drake London, another wide receiver. Obviously, for the same reason that I like Drake London as one of my player props. He's been getting a ton of targets, one of the most targeted receivers in the NFL. The Buccaneers secondary has been terrible, and he had a huge monster performance against the Bucs last time they played. Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jaguars. I wrote an article this week on Sports Illustrated how I think Brian Thomas Jr. might be worth a small sprinkle of Offensive Rookie of the Year at 25-1. He's like 6th, I think, in receiving yards in the NFL right now. He's clearly the number 1 option in Jacksonville. He's overtaken Christian Kirk. He has like 4 receiving touchdowns already this season too. Brian Thomas Jr., everyone's talking about Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison. Brian Thomas Jr. might be the best rookie receiver this season. So pretty decently priced option here at 6,400, especially going against the Packers. Packers are 4-point favorites. I like the Packers to cover that spread. That will potentially mean a negative game script. Negative game script means more passes. More passes means more options for Brian Thomas Jr. to score fantasy points. Cade Otton, you know what? I don't really love that I have 2 Buccaneers in this lineup, but Cade Otton is an extremely cheap option at $3,500 for a tight end, and he is the only viable option to throw to. Flex option, we're going with Tyler Lockett against the Bills. Flex is always, I just go with whichever is the cheapest option, or whichever is the best option of whatever my budget I have left over. Tyler Lockett, consistent. DK Metcalf might be out. He's questionable this week. If he can haul in some receptions, that's going to be huge for us as a cheap flex. And then we're going Chargers for the defense against the Saints. Hopefully the Saints have a similar offense performance that they had against the Broncos last week, against the Chargers this week. Chargers defense is good enough to be able to take advantage of it. And if we can get a defensive touchdown, a couple sacks, maybe a couple turnovers, that'd be nice from our defense. So just to recap, my DFS lineup is Jordan Love, Javonte Williams, Bucky Irving. Receivers are Juwan Jennings, Drake London, Brian Thomas, Cade Otton, Tyler Lockett, and the Chargers defense. All right, this has been the NFL Week 8 edition of the Player Prop Countdown. Gamble or bless, be sure to check out the Road to 272 for this week. Subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Rate and review the audio version of this podcast. Best of luck to all of your bets this week. And I'll talk to you next week. Tuesday morning will be, of course, the Week 9 edition of the Road to 272. I'll talk to you all then.